By Alix Culbertson, news. ReporterGermanys President has urged all parties to reconsider their positions and compromise, hours after talks aimed at forming a government collapsed. Frank-Walter Steinmeier called on politicians to put their differences aside to put together a governing coalition. The collapse of the talks leaves Chancellor Angela Merkel hanging in the balance and facing one of the biggest challenges in her long stint in power. The German president said building a government has always been a difficult process of give and take, but the mandate to form a government is perhaps the highest mandate given by voters to a party in a democracy. And this mandate remains. This is the moment where all participants need to reconsider their attitude. He said he would hold talks with leaders of the three parties involved in negotiations. Christian Lindner, the leader of the pro-business Free Democrats Party FDP, walked out of talks on Monday morning after 4 weeks of negotiations to form a coalition to create a new government. He said there was no basis of trust to forge a government with Mrs. Merkel's Christian Democratic Union (CDU) and the Greens. "It is better not to govern than to govern badly," he said, adding that the parties did not share a common vision on modernizing Germany. What next for Angela Merkel after German government talks collapse? Image. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier called for unity in Germany. Germany has been without a functional government for 2 months after a general election left Mrs. Merkel without a majority. There are now a few options. Mrs. Merkel can attempt fresh talks, or form a minority government, or Mr. Steinmeier calls a new election if a coalition cannot be agreed on. The president said he was not in favor of calling a snap election. Europe's longest-serving leader, Mrs. Merkel, left Monday's talks looking displeased but promised to steer Germany through the crisis. She confirmed she would remain as acting chancellor and would consult with Mr. Steinmeier on how to move forward. "It is a day of deep reflection on how to go forward in Germany," she said. "As chancellor, I will do everything to ensure that this country is well managed in the difficult weeks to come." The main sticking points of Monday's talks were on migration and climate change. Image. Social Democratic Party (SPD) Chancellor candidate Martin Schulz refused to form a coalition with Angela Merkel. Mrs. Merkel lost votes over her decision to open Germany's borders in 2015 to more than 1 million asylum seekers. Many voters choose to support the far-right Alternative for Germany (AfD) party instead. Mr. Steinmeier said he would speak with chairs of parties which have program overlaps that do not rule out forming a government, in reference to the center-left Social Democratic Party (SDP). Following an embarrassing thrashing at September's polls, the SDP has repeatedly said it needs to be in opposition rather than continuing its alliance with Mrs. Merkel's party as a junior partner. Minutes before Mr. Steinmeier's speech, Martin Schulz, SPD chairman and former European Parliament president, said his party was not available to form a new grand coalition.